Hello and salam keluarga Malaysia. This is Updates at Noon. I'm Mohana Priya. Making the headlines today. Task force set up to combat fake news during GE15. Twitter chaos deepens as key executives quit. Prime Minister Datuk Seri Ismail Sabri Yaakob has directed all agencies, including the Health Department and Social Welfare Department, to give full attention to efforts to help Keluarga Malaysia members who are affected by floods. In a post on his official Facebook, the Prime Minister also directed the National Disaster Management Agency, NADMA, Fire and Rescue Department, Police, the Malaysian Armed Forces and Civil Defence Force to go to the affected locations to evacuate flood victims. Elaborating further, the Premier said he had received reports that several areas in Selangor have been flooded since Wednesday. He also urged the relevant agencies to make sure that operations to rescue the victims are conducted smoothly and there are adequate food stocks and transport at the ready. Datuk Seri Ismail Sabri advised the public to always exercise caution during disasters, abide by instructions given by security agencies, and make early preparations based on bad weather warnings issued by the Malaysian Meteorological Department. He said everyone should pray together for a quick recovery from the disaster and for the victims to return to their homes safely. As at 5 a.m. today, 3 relief centres have been opened in Selangor, including at Sekolah Kebangsaan Johan Setia in Klang, which houses 147 victims. Barisan Nasional Chairman Datuk Seri Dr. Ahmad Zahid Hamidi meanwhile reiterated yesterday that UMNO Vice President Datuk Seri Ismail Sabri Yaakob remains BN's Prime Ministerial candidate for the 15th general election. Datuk Seri Dr. Ahmad Zahid, who is also UMNO President, said the decision was final and there is no need to speculate on the matter while BN is campaigning to win this election. He said when UMNO and BN make a decision, they are committed to determining that their Prime Ministerial candidate is the one who is doing his job well in Putrajaya now. He further told everyone not to speculate and predict as there is no issue within the party. The Barisan Nasional Chairman said this when speaking at a meeting with BN candidates, machinery and supporters at the Bukit Terendah District Polling Centre in Sungai Udang yesterday. The Communications and Multimedia Ministry, KCOM, has established a task force with immediate effect to monitor fake news on social media during the 15th general election. Its Minister, Tan Sri Anwar Musa, said the team consisted of more than 100 personnel from the Royal Malaysia Police and the Malaysian Communications and Multimedia Commission, MCMC. Commenting further on the matter, Tan Sri Anwar said the police have made an application to him for this task force to be provided with the necessary devices to combat fake news on social media, and he has approved it. He said once fake news is detected, the task force will act swiftly to remove them without having to wait for a report. The minister further urged the public to report to the MCMC if they come across slanderous or fake news on social media. He noted that the spread of fake news can bring about negative implications, and if allowed to continue, it could cause victims to be under pressure to the extent of some even resorting to suicide. On another note, the minister has also asked the MCMC and telecommunication companies to monitor telecommunication towers prone to flooding more often to ensure that communications would not be cut off, especially in the event of disasters. He said this was following a forecast of continuous rain by the Malaysian Meteorological Department, Met Malaysia. The telecommunication companies have also been asked to be more proactive in ensuring their preparedness during floods. The Danau Tok Uban floating solar energy plant is expected to commence its supply of electricity to 40,000 households annually in Kelantan beginning next year. Energy and Natural Resources Minister Datuk Sri Takiuddin Hassan said the project has achieved more than 90% progress and will complete in the first quarter of next year before electricity can be generated for Tenaga Nasional Berhad. Elaborating further, Datuk Sri Taqiyuddin said the project is supposed to cut down carbon dioxide emissions by 100,000 tonnes annually, and this is a huge and important milestone in the government's efforts to reduce carbon emissions. He also said that the solar project is unique as it is an iconic and world-class solar farm for Malaysians to be proud of. He said the plant, which utilizes floater technology integrated with aquaculture, is the largest in the world, and he was made to understand that the state government will also develop the surrounding area as a new tourist destination in Kelantan. Meanwhile, SAHIH Resources Berhad Group Chief Executive Officer Datuk Daud Ahmad said that the 450 million ringgit project is an investment by two local Bumiputra companies. The companies are SAHIH Estuary Sdn Berhad and Cove Surya Sdn Berhad, and both companies have appointed SAHIH Ref Sdn Berhad, a subsidiary of SAHIH Resources Berhad, as the turnkey engineering, procurement, construction and commissioning contractor. Both companies have also partnered with Kelantan Utilities Mubarakan Sdn Berhad, a subsidiary of Perbadanan Menteri Besar Kelantan. Malaysia's gross domestic product GDP is estimated to expand by 13.5% year-on-year in the third quarter or Q3 of this year, driven by recovery in tourism-related segments as well as the low base effect, according to stockbroking firm CGS-CIMB. In a research note yesterday, it said the pace of growth, an acceleration from 8.9% year-on-year in the second quarter of 2022, was suggested by recent data on the Malaysian economy that covered close to 80% of GDP. The stockbroking firm said the double-digit growth was reinforced by further recovery in tourism-related sectors amid the ongoing increase in domestic travel and international arrivals, as well as from the low base effect given the lockdown in Q3 2021. In addition, government intervention on administered prices and heavy subsidies had minimized erosion of household disposable income, possibly lending support to consumption growth. The government is scheduled to release the Q3 GDP data today, maintaining a 2022 GDP growth forecast of 7.3%. CGS-CIMB said besides the normalization of economic activity, the impact from the low base effect this time was particularly strong on the year-on-year numbers. Hence, all Q3 data should show robust improvement. It forecasts GDP growth to moderate to 5% in 2023. On the overnight policy rate, CGS-CIMB projected 225 basis point rate hikes in 2023 to lift the key rate to 3.25%. Coming up in the foreign segment, Ukraine claims major gains as Russia exits Kherson. But first, Elon Musk's ownership of Twitter descended ever deeper into chaos yesterday as key security executives resigned from the platform, drawing a sharp warning from US regulators. The walkouts came a day after the chaotic launch of new features introduced by Tesla and SpaceX owner Musk following his $44 billion buyout of the influential messaging app. In the most extraordinary exit, US media reported that Yoel Roth, the site's head of trust and safety, stepped down just a day after staunchly defending Musk's content moderation policy to advertisers. Also out was Robin Wheeler, who held a key role linking Twitter with advertisers and was considered a key Musk ally inside the company. Now, the chaos followed the unveiling of the site's long-awaited Twitter Blue subscription service, which allows users to pay every month for a coveted blue tick, as well as a separate grey official badge for some high-profile accounts. But the release descended into cacophony on Wednesday when Musk scrapped the new grey label almost immediately, overshadowing the launch of the pay service. The launch also saw the emergence of a flurry of fake accounts as users used the opportunity to impersonate celebrities and politicians such as NBA star LeBron James. The chaos drew a rare warning from the Federal Trade Commission, the U.S. authority that oversees consumer safety, which had put Twitter under a watch for past security and privacy breaches. Kiev forces have recaptured over 40 towns and villages in southern Ukraine as Moscow signaled its army had begun retreating from the strategic city of Kherson.
Шановні українці, сьогодні маємо хороші новини з півдня. Кількість українських прапорів, які повертаються на своє законне місце в рамках триваючої оборонної операції, вже десятки. 41 населений пункт звільнено. Я дякую.
Moscow said it had made the difficult decision to pull forces from Kherson, and Russia's defense ministry yesterday said its units were maneuvering in the area. Ukrainian troops have for weeks been capturing villages en route to Kherson city in the eponymous region, where Kremlin-installed leaders have been pulling out civilians in what Kiev has called illegal deportations. The retreat would be a major Russian setback in a region Vladimir Putin claimed to have annexed, but officials in Kiev have remained wary, saying Russia was unlikely to leave Kherson without a fight. Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky, who had been facing pressure from Western capitals to resume peace talks with Russia, hinted that negotiations were not ruled out if Ukraine regains all of its territory. U.S. media have reported in recent days that the Joe Biden administration has been urging Zelensky to publicly declare a willingness to talk to Russia. A Belgian police officer was killed in a knife attack in Brussels yesterday as anti-terror prosecutors took charge of the inquiry. A spokesman for the prosecutor's office said that federal investigators had taken charge because there is suspicion of a terrorist motive, which will be confirmed or disproved. Local media reported that an assailant stabbed 2 officers in the area close to the city's Brussels North railway station before being shot in legs and abdomen by another police patrol arriving at the scene. One of the police officers reportedly died of his injuries after being stabbed in the neck, and both the other wounded officer and the perpetrator were hospitalized. A local resident said that he had heard 5 or 6 shots fired shortly after the time of the attack. Several news outlets reported, without giving their source, that the assailant had early on Thursday gone into a police station in the city to warn that he would try to attack the police, but he was not detained. Interior Minister Annelies Verlinden said that she was closely monitoring the situation and was in contact with police and local authorities. The United Nations overwhelmingly passed a drafted resolution yesterday calling out the deteriorating situation in Afghanistan and setting the stage for increased aid. The withdrawal of US-led forces from Afghanistan, completed a minute before midnight on 30th August 2021, came as the Taliban swept to power after a 20-year insurgency with a speed and ease that took the world by surprise.
Afghanistan is in a crisis. It is in many crises. It has been 15 months since the Taliban consolidated control over the country. Its economy is in ruins. The humanitarian situation is disastrous. 2/3 of the population is hungry. Girls and women are banned from learning, having a job, or getting proper medical care. The country is awash with heroin and opium. Organized crime and terrorist organizations are thriving once again. Afghanistan is facing complex and interlinked challenges that the Taliban have shown they cannot or they would not solve. It is time to support the Afghan people with concrete solutions that place their needs front and center.
Earlier this year, in July, the UN mission in Afghanistan said that the Taliban were responsible for extrajudicial killings, torture, arbitrary arrests, and inhumane punishments since they had toppled the previous government and seized power. Pakistan's former Prime Minister Imran Khan told supporters via video link they should keep up an anti-government march a week after he was wounded in a gun attack. Khan also dismissed a police report that a lone shooter tried to kill him. The 70-year-old former cricket hero was wounded on 3rd November when an attacker fired several shots, wounding him and 10 others at a rally in the eastern city of Wazirabad. One of the injured people later died. The rally was part of a rolling march that he has led to press for a general election since he was ousted in a parliament vote in April. Khan also said nothing could deter him from going ahead as long as the snap polls were not called, adding that he would join the protest march in the garrison city of Rawalpindi, adjacent to Islamabad, in some days. His successor, Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif, has rejected Khan's demand, saying the election will be held as scheduled later next year. A police report released last week said a man identified as Mohammad Naveed acted alone and he took out a pistol and started shooting while Khan waved at his supporters at the event last week. In the video address, however, Khan rejected the police version and said at least 2 people executed what he said was a well-planned attack. He did not provide evidence to back up his claim, but pointed to occasions when he spoke at his public rallies in September about a suspected plot. Peruvian police fired tear gas at protesters yesterday to clear thousands of President Pedro Castillo's supporters demonstrating against the Congress attempts to remove him from office. Footage showed people gathered near the National Congress building in Lima, demanding a shutdown of the opposition-dominated chamber in a protest summoned by unions, leftist parties and organizations under the motto Lima's Capture. Tensions rose when protesters used sticks to hit officers, thus the riot police responded with tear gas canisters. The clash of governing powers comes as Castillo faces several criminal investigations of alleged corruption. The president, who took office in July 2022 and denies the accusations, has survived 2 impeachment attempts, and opposition legislators are seeking support to launch a new trial against him, although they lack the votes necessary in Congress. The demonstration took place 10 days before a mission of the Organization of American States visit Peru for a plural and objective assessment of the situation. Brazil's President-elect Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva said he would travel to Egypt to take part in the COP27 Global Climate Summit next week to meet international leaders. He said he will have more conversations with world leaders in a single day than Jair Bolsonaro did in 4 years, in a dig at the current president, whom he beat in last month's election. Lula said his re-election after 2 previous mandates from 2003 to 2010 was generating much expectation in the world after he defeated the far-right Bolsonaro in a tight runoff in October. In the first 3 years under Bolsonaro, a climate change skeptic, average annual deforestation in the Amazon rainforest increased 75% on the previous decade. Lula has made environmental protection a key part of his platform and has vowed to achieve zero deforestation. He is due to assume the presidency for his 3rd term on 1st January. When COP27 ends on 18th November, Lula will travel to Portugal to meet President Marcelo Rebelo de Sousa and Prime Minister Antonio Costa, according to Brazilian media. And coming up in sports, Malaysia end wait for Sultan Azlan Shah Cup in style. The national hockey team made history when they lifted the Sultan Azlan Shah Cup for the first time after defeating South Korea 3-2 in a tense final at the Sultan Azlan Shah Hockey Stadium last night. In last night's showdown, Malaysia shot ahead in the 14th minute through a field goal by Shalo Selverius, but their joy was short-lived when South Korea equalized a minute later through a Jang Jong-hyun penalty corner goal. Undaunted, World number 10 Malaysia continued to push forward, and their efforts paid off when referee Raghu Prasad rewarded the Speedy Tigers with a penalty stroke in the 44th minute. which Mohammad Razi Abdul Rahim coolly placed past South Korea goalkeeper Kim Jae-yong. Although world number 12 South Korea then went on the offensive in search of an equalizer, the Malaysian defence, led by Muhammad Hafizuddin Othman, managed to keep them at bay. With South Korea pushing up, Malaysia managed to breach their defence again in the 47th minute through a Muhammad Aminuddin Muhammad Zain field goal before coach Kim Byung-hyun's men reduced the deficit in the 57th minute through a Jeon Byung-jin penalty corner goal. But it proved too little, too late, as Malaysia held on for a memorable and historic win. The victory enabled the Speedy Tigers to end a 39-year wait for the title, which they missed out when they lost 8-3 to Australia in the final of the 2014 edition. The Sultan of Perak, Sultan Nazrin Shah, presented the Malaysian team with the trophy. A rousing second-half display from Manchester United earned the hosts a thrilling 4-2 victory over Aston Villa in the EFL Cup third round early this morning. Erik ten Hag's side were in danger of losing to Villa for the second time in a week after trailing twice at Old Trafford. After an uneventful first half, the game sprang to life just after the break as Ollie Watkins clipped Villa into the lead before the hosts went straight down the other end to level through Anthony Marshall. The chances kept coming and Villa retook their lead after Diogo Dalot inadvertently diverted the ball into his own net, only for United to quickly equalise again with Marcus Rashford applying the finish. The game opened up as it approached the later stages and Bruno Fernandes, played in by substitute Alejandro Garnacho, put United ahead with a shot off the back of Villa defender Tyrone Mings, 12 minutes from time. Scott McTominay added a late fourth for United to put the seal on an exhilarating win over Villa, who beat them 3-1 in the Premier League on Sunday. Now, England included in-form Leicester City midfielder James Maddison in their squad for the World Cup in Qatar, with forwards Callum Wilson and Marcus Rashford also selected yesterday. Maddison and Newcastle United striker Wilson have not played for England since 2019, but have been rewarded for fine starts to the domestic season in the run-up to this month's tournament. Whether to include Maddison was the major talking point in recent months. But the 25-year-old has, since the start of the last season, been directly involved in 30 Premier League goals, 18 goals and 12 assists, with only England captain Harry Kane having had a higher total among English players in this period. Manchester United's Rashford is another player who has found some goal-scoring form this season, which persuaded Gareth Southgate to bring him back into the fold after he last appeared as a substitute in the Euro 2020 final in July. Chelsea's Conor Gallagher is taking a midfield spot, while AS Roma striker Tammy Abraham and AC Milan defender Fikayo Tomori did not make it to the final 26-man list. Manchester City duo defender Kyle Walker and midfielder Calvin Phillips, who have both been injured for much of the campaign, are included, with Manchester United defender Harry Maguire also in, despite not playing regularly for his club. England begin their World Cup group campaign against Iran on 21st November and also face the United States and Wales. Meanwhile, Robert Lewandowski will lead Poland's World Cup campaign, with Barcelona's goal-scoring machine among the 26-man squad for Qatar named by coach Czeslaw Michniewicz yesterday. Michniewicz said the selection process was the most important decision of his life, revealing that he had run his picks past Lewandowski. A lot will be counting on Lewandowski, with Poland in a group containing Lionel Messi's Argentina, Saudi Arabia and Mexico, against whom they opened their campaign on 22nd November. Lewandowski has yet to make his mark at a World Cup and remains undoubtedly the key to Poland's destiny. The 34-year-old scored 9 times in as many outings as Poland punched their ticket to Qatar, taking his haul to 25 goals in 19 games across the last 2 World Cup qualifying campaigns. Michniewicz said nothing has changed in terms of Wojciech Szczesny of Juventus being his number 1 choice as keeper. He is among 11 of the squad based in Italy. The one area where the coach conceded there was an issue was in midfield, which led to a call-up for AEK Athens' Damian Szymanski. Poland qualified for the World Cup by beating Sweden in a playoff in March. Their mission is to erase the memory of their team group stage departure in 2018, with 1986 the last time they made it into the knockout phase. And on to tennis, Jack Draper raced to a 4-love 4-1, 4-3 victory over home favourite Lorenzo Musetti early today to book his place in the semi-finals of the next-gen ATP Finals in Milan. Despite an impressive season, lifting trophies in Hamburg and Naples and climbing to 23 in the ATP rankings, Musetti was unable to find his form in the 21 and under tournament. Both players entered the match with a 1-1 record, requiring a win to progress to the semis. In front of a packed Italian crowd, Draper produced a ruthless display to silence the home supporters, punching holes in the Musetti defence with his fierce ground strokes to advance. The 20-year-old, who is making his debut at the 21 and under event, flew out of the blocks, hitting his flat backhand through the court. The Italian, who took a tumble at the start of the second set, was unable to handle Draper's aggressive forehand and swinging lefty serve, with the Briton overpowering the Italian to earn his 19th tour-level win of the season. With his 56-minute victory, Draper has set a semi-final meeting against 21-year-old American Brandon Nakashima, who topped the green group tomorrow morning. Meanwhile, Switzerland's Dominic Stricker continued his impressive start to the next-gen ATP Finals tournament, moving to 3-0 to finish atop the red group with a straight sets victory over Sing Chun Sin of Taiwan, 4-2, 4-1, 4-2. Stricker, who entered the tournament ranked 7th, upset second seed Lorenzo Musetti and third seed Jack Draper in his first two matches and will next face the Czech Republic's Jiří Leheka, who finished second in the green group. Each of the first 8 sets Stricker played were decided by tiebreaks, including all 5 against Italy's Musetti on Wednesday evening. But the 20-year-old quickly broke that pattern against Singh in a match he dominated from start to finish. Stricker broke at the first opportunity in each set and did not face a break point in sets 2 and 3. The opening set was the most competitive, with Singh closing to 2-3 by converting on his 5th break point, only to surrender serve and the set in the very next game. Stricker finished with 24 winners in the 56-minute match. And with that, we end today's Updates at Noon. In our top story today, task force set up to combat fake news during GE15. Tune in to News at 10 coming up at 10 p.m. on My Freeview's saluran Berita RTM channel 123. Now here's a clip of flight performance during Airshow China 2022, with the movements showcased in the sky choreographed close to actual combat. Yang SAHIH di RTM, #MyPRU15. Thank you for watching. I'm Mohana Priya. Thank you for your company.